Christian parenting.
Welcome to the Living Wholehearted podcast. We are Jeff and Tara Matson, a husband and wife team who is shrinking the integrity gap in our own lives and helping others do the same. I'm a leadership and organizational development coach, and Tara is a licensed marriage and family therapist.
We believe that if you have a following, you are a leader, and how you lead matters. Whether you are leading in the home, work, or community, we are bringing you biblical, clinical, and relational wisdom to help you in every relationship that matters most to you. None of us do this perfectly, but we are leaning into the reality of our humanity and profound wisdom of grace.
Welcome back. We're continuing our conversation with Ted and Ally Hotchkiss, who are telling their story of finding hope in the midst of some of the most difficult places. And this is based on our last conversation we had with them. So if you didn't catch that, go back and listen. It's so important. Some profound things were said, such articulate and hopeful and real ways.
Well, let's continue our conversation just right where we left off. You might not know this, but chronic pain is one of the leading reasons for suicide. And I know that's such a heavy bomb to drop at the beginning of an episode, but we're talking about hope in the darkness, and it's a heavy time of depression and anxiety. And so chronic pain is one of the leading reasons for suicide. And it's something that I've not faced, but I've sat with many people over the years. And Ally, tell us what a daily routine is like for you and how you're managing your own physical pain on a day-to-day basis.
Each day and each hour is very unpredictable for us. We never know what kind of day we're going to deal with when we wake up. So we have a lot of flexibility built into our routine to be able to roll with the punches. Like, we don't really plan things. We can't really RSVP to events or make any kind of schedule in advance. I spend a significant amount of my time in bed or at medical appointments trying different things to increase our quality of life. And our apartment is our safe place because we have a whole arsenal of different pain management tools for us to try each day until we find the right one that fits that moment. But overall, it's pretty much just us trying to figure out what we'll face each day and how to handle the wild card of balancing a lot of different medical conditions at the same time.
And you got two little ones in this midst, a source of great joy, I'm sure, and also the practical challenges as you're trying to manage pain in a given day or daily or hours of a given day, loving and providing the needs for your kiddos. That adds complexity.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's part of the reason why Teddy has to stay home full time. He's my caregiver to always help me with the different situations that we come across, because we don't know if I'm going to be able to take a few steps around our apartment each day or if I'm not going to have any physical function at all, and he's going to have to do everything for me. So he is here to help me and also to play with our girls, and he makes all of our meals and does all of our cleaning, and he's pretty much Superman because he does everything for us to take care of us. And it's incredible that God has given him the strength and the heart of a servant to do so, because he has an incredible job that he does for us every day.
You're the man, Ted. Wow. You're the man. Well, listen. Oh yeah, it speaks for itself here. Your bride is speaking these things about you, which is beautiful to hear. Well, listen, all of us say, right? I do, in sickness and in health in some form. I mean, vows have been changed so much, and people say different things these days, but that is a commitment that we make, right, on our wedding day. What was the moment when you realized that these vows would truly be tested for you, Ted? Speak to that spouse that's struggling with renegotiating what they thought they were committing to. to when they decided to marry, and in a way that only you can do in this moment here.
Yeah. So the day I realized something more was going on was on our honeymoon. So during a part of it, we spent some time at Disneyland. And throughout the day, walking around the park, Allie's physical strength was noticeably deteriorating. And that led to the end of the day where I had to carry her in my arms from the exit of the park back to our hotel, like a mile away.
You are the man. You are the man. Drop the mic.
No. So all the while I was carrying her, I was trying to have this honest conversation with her about what was going on with her physically. And she was acting like everything was fine. So we laugh about that now, but she truly believed that she could have walked if she really wanted to. It was the denial that was there of like, no, everything is okay. Everything's fine. If I really wanted, I just need some help right now. That was kind of her response to me. And I was kind of going, and it was just such a contrast to what, when we were dating, gosh, dancing is like a very physically involved task. I remember we would go out dancing and it felt like, I got cardio exercise in, and it was so much fun. And there was just, we didn't see any of that in our dating life. On the honeymoon, when we were walking around Disneyland, it was like I noticed, okay, if we push Allie past this certain point, physically exerting her past this point, there's a breaking point. And it seems like that ceiling is not as high as it is for other people are in our age category. And so there's something going on here. And it took a little bit of time before we kind of got to the place where, we're able to have an honest conversation about what was going on. So that was the first time that I noticed something. But back then, we look back at that now and it's like, wow, gosh, we used to have so much energy. And we used to, Allie, we would walk and we didn't have any of the mobility aids that we have now. That was something that didn't come till later on in the marriage. But to answer your second part of the question, you're saying speak to the spouse that is struggling. And this is what I'd say. For me, this comes back to what I'm believing about my circumstances. I have to sort out my own beliefs about what marriage is about, why I got married in the first place, and if I trust God before I can step into a role as a caretaker. So I'd say that to any spouse who's at this place, if you are going to step into a position of a caretaker, there's some things that you have to get sorted out. If I don't have those things sorted out, I will believe I am obligated to take care of someone and end up treating them like an inconvenient burden. That's just an unavoidable truth. So if I don't have those things sorted out, I'll look at them like an obstacle keeping me from a fulfilling life rather than the avenue God is using to bring fulfillment into my life.
So good. It's a profound shift, right, than what we think marriage is about. And yet it's a part of what God is doing. And he uses everything to draw us to his heartbeat for us. And so there's a common reality for all suffering and trauma, and it's that recognition of loss and actually naming the loss, and then being able to actually talk about the gain. What do we gain? So talk a little bit about what you feel like you've lost along the way it's the humanity part of all of us, Teddy and Ally, that I know you guys are so real and speak to. So what do you feel like you've lost along the way? And then you can help us understand what you've gained through this suffering.
This is a big one that we're continually emotionally working through as new big and little things come up over time. Like Teddy just mentioned, I've had quite the journey with denial through all of this. A lot of it was from not having answers for 2.5 decades and me just thinking, okay, well, everything must be okay with me because no one can figure out what's wrong. So I'm just going to set my expectations that way. So several times I've had to mourn the loss of the life that I always expected. I thought when we got married that our life would look more like the typical American couple, that I would be the primary caregiver if we had kids, and Teddy would go out and work a traditional job for income, and we would have a thriving social community and would be involved in a lot of different things. And instead, just about everything has flipped from the expectations that I had in my early and mid 20s, even going to Disneyland for a day. Um, Everything is different than we expected. And there's a lot of mourning over those little things, like me going grocery shopping, or big things like me not getting to be the primary caregiver for my little girls. But at the same time, we've gained so much in its place, though, and none of this is what we planned, but there's still so much good and gifts that we have in our life. For example, Teddy gets to have this parenting experience that not many dads get in our culture these days. And we get a lot of quality time together as a family, which is great for our kids and for our marriage. And even at their really young ages, our girls are showing a compassion and sensitivity level to suffering that is deeper than typical for kids their ages. And they're also learning to break many of the stigmas that exist around disability without even knowing it. And we hope to further work on that with them as they grow. So there's a lot that we've gained through the suffering alongside the mourning that we continually face in big and little things.
It's really special to hear you talk about a reframe, right? That you're getting more quality family time in your marriage and with your kids. I think it's important for our audience to hear that oftentimes we do have to look at things from a different angle and be able to see the compassion growing in your little girls. That's pretty amazing. So as we close 2020, and many are facing depression, loss of job, fear of getting sick, loss of a loved one, loss of a way of life, right? We've lost vacations and sports and school and the rhythm of going to work in a commute. In the middle of all the loss, what do you think God would say to us today? Maybe we'd love to hear from both of you before we close.
I think he would say that he's here. He sees us. He hasn't left us to work through the loss on our own. And I don't think that he causes suffering, but I think that if we just wait and watch, we'll see some surprising things come as a result from the suffering in the future.
Yeah, so talking about that reframe, it's this idea of there are aspects of hurting that are unavoidable, that we will all experience pain in our lives at one time or another, and that's unavoidable. And so then if I can accept that, then the goal is no longer to avoid pain at all costs, but it's can I walk through pain and do it in a healthy way? Because there are unhealthy ways to be hurting. There are unhealthy things to do when we are in the midst of going through hurting and suffering. But is there an option to do it in a way that is healthy? And Jesus was so perfect at that, of hurting in healthy ways, whether it was communicating with these men who call themselves friends, communicating to them his emotions, his feeling, talking about what he was going through. And so whatever you're facing, whatever you're going through, there is an option to walk through it with the Father and with the Son, who is not ignorant of what suffering is like. The Father is not ignorant to what we're going through. He's very, very aware of it. And so if that is my reality, then is there a way to walk through this with them, being fully loved, fully known, and doing it in a way where I can still experience a fulfilling life where I'm loved and I get to love others and I get to carry out life that way.
Well, guys, as we come to a close, I think I can speak for Tara and I thank you so much for your authenticity, your sharing your heart, your honesty, the handles that you hold on to, that you guys are holding on to in the moments of each day. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, unchanging, faithful. And here you are depending on that with every fiber of your being. And it's a beautiful testimony. It's a hard story. And yet you've given our listeners and Tara and I reminding us of the importance of presence and of being with you and for others to be with those that they know that are experiencing suffering, and that's significant. And if there's more that can be done, wonderful. God will lead, but just being incredible. And we just want to say thank you so much for the time today. And Tara, you have something to add.
I just wanted to ask you both, is there a book or a resource that our audience could maybe grab that's been one of your favorites over the last years?
I have really liked Catherine and Jay Wolf's books, Suffer Strong and Hope Heals. Their books are really good, and they're one of the first times that we felt like someone else understood. Someone else knew what it was like having the husband have to drop everything and stop working and become a caregiver and have two kids in the midst of all of it. So I would definitely recommend their book and following their story because it's an incredible journey that has given us a lot of hope and helped us not feel quite so alone.
Teddy, did you have one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would just add The Cure in all of that as well. That is one of those things where that helps in the midst of suffering, whether you're the caregiver or the one who is experiencing the suffering themselves. Those foundational truths by those guys, Bruce McNichol, Bill Thrall, John Lynch, and you all just heard from Bill, those foundational truths help sort out just all the lies and confusion that can come from a messy life of what you believe about God and what you believe about yourself, and, kind of getting to the heart of a lot of the issues of where a lot of beliefs can come from.
Yeah, those resources you've mentioned are significant. They've been profound in our journey as well. Ted and Ally, thank you again so much for joining us in this time on this podcast. And again, as our listeners, if you want to know more about Ted and Ally and their story, go to the @ ALLYHOTCH. That's at Ally Hotch, and you can stay in touch and continue to glean from this couple that's living and leading with beautiful integrity. And we thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
This podcast is powered by Living Wholehearted, Courageous Girls, and the Christian Parenting Podcast Network. Thank you for joining us in this critical movement of shrinking our integrity gaps between what we preach and live.